Welcome to the Good Divorce Show, where we can help you learn how to navigate the journey of divorce with less conflict, less debt, and equip you not to just get divorced, but also learn how to be divorced. Your host, certified divorce coach Karen McNenny, shares her wealth of knowledge, gets advice from other relationship experts, and interviews couples who learn how to have a good divorce, so you can too. Now here's your host, Karen.
Hello, and welcome to Tea Time with Coach Karen. I am Karen McNenny, your good divorce coach. And I am so delighted you're joining me today here on Tea Time. I am the host of the Good Divorce Show, where I often interview experts in the industry who want to help you find your pathway to a divorce with less debt, less destruction, less despair. And I also have a collection of guests on the podcast of folks just like you and me, parents of divorce, children of divorce, who are telling their stories and what they've learned so that we can all find our way to a more peaceful transformation of our family. Today, I want to talk about timing. So often folks reach out to me as clients and they say, Karen, we need help in knowing how to talk to our kids. We don't know what to tell our kids. And that's an episode for another day, because I definitely have a number of thoughts about what to tell kids, what not to tell kids. And much of that is based on age and also the situation of the family. But one of the things that we don't talk enough about is timing and when to tell the children. This is what happened. I had a client, we did an intake call, which I always spend an hour free of charge with either parent together or separate, so that we can decide if there's a good fit in working together. And this couple decided, yes, indeed, they wanted to have the good divorce experience and to partner with me. And we got on our very first consult, and the first thing they said was, we need to know how to tell the children that we're getting a divorce. We have to tell the children. And I said, well, you will need to tell the children, but it's actually not the first thing that you need to do, because the kids are going to have a lot of questions that you don't have answers for yet. For instance, where are we going to live? What's going to happen to the family home, right? That's one of the first questions that comes up with kiddos. So the mother in particular was really adamant, but the children need to know. We have to tell the children. We can't keep this secret. I said, you've been keeping secrets from your children for a long time. We all have, because discretion is different than deception. We don't want to deceive our children outright, right? That starts to build trust issues that may carry them throughout their life. But we definitely want to be discreet when appropriate. And leaping into a conversation with your kids about divorce before you are prepared, rehearsed, and have thought about the timing is not a good idea. All sorts of damage can be done right off the bat. And remember, how we start is often how we end. So I tapped the brakes for that particular couple. We figured out some real estate things. And then when the time was right, but even that wasn't just cut and dry, because there's time of day, there's time of week, there's what activities are happening right now with our children. What do we need to be aware? Is there a slumber party Saturday night? So we have the big global when to tell the children, which is when you actually have some answers and can share some concrete information with them, along with a lot of, I don't know, we're not sure, we'll figure it out. But then there's also the very specific timing. So now we know that we're generally in the pocket where we're prepared to have this conversation with our kids or child. So when do we do that? And these are the things that I encourage couples to take into consideration. So we start with the simple one. Month of year, right? So you might be thinking, well, but if we've already decided and we've got these answers, we should lean into that. Well, if your child is about to graduate, you might not want to tell them the week before graduation. Just saying. If your child is about to launch to college, you may not want to tell them the week before they leave home. Although I did have a parent once suggest that as an option, in which I very delicately suggested that we could do better than dropping this right at the foot of your child before they are leaving their family. no processing time allowed, no adjustment time, no connection. So we bypassed that. And then, of course, there's always the holidays, the birthdays, like, let's not do it at Thanksgiving. Well, let's not do it here. So let me say this. Overall, there's never going to be a good time to tell your children that you're getting a divorce. That is never going to be a conversation that any of us want to have with our children. And it will never feel like today is the perfect day to have that discussion. But there are better days. So think about time of year. And sometimes we can delay, sometimes we can't. But if the parents are in the background dealing with real estate things, maybe starting to get a financial disclosure pulled together, talking with lawyers, depending on your level of discretion in your community, a lot of that can still be happening without the children being a part of the story yet. Obviously, once you move into two homes or you're ready to move into two homes, then that's usually what pushes the hands of the parents that we need to have a conversation, which is why you got to figure out the two home part first to the best of your ability. Or if you're nesting, same thing. We're going to think about, okay, we need to talk to the kids about the fact that we're going to live in different, parts of town now, or even maybe different parts of the country or the world. So now we know we're not going to do it the week before graduation or before school starts or maybe right on their birthday or the day after Christmas, but we find a sweet spot in the calendar year. So now we go and we look at the month. And within that month, we've decided, okay, April is the month we're going to talk to the kids. And then we consider, are there any big events? Is there a spring break? Do we have family coming into town? Would it be better for the kids to know before family arrives so that they maybe have some processing time with that favorite cousin of theirs or that uncle that they always lean on? Or we don't want this to hijack Aunt Betty's third marriage wedding event, so we're going to hold off until afterwards, until the family reunion is done, right? So have this conversation. I mean, it is stunning to me how often parents don't pause and think about the timing. So, okay, now we're going to avoid Aunt Betty's third wedding. We've figured out this is the time, this is the week where we don't have any soccer tournaments, we don't have any visiting relatives, and this is going to be the right time to talk to the kiddos. Okay, so then it's what day of the week? Literally. Is it on the day they also have a giant ACT test? Is it on the day that they're doing show and tell for the first time in kindergarten? Or the night before? So I'm a believer in Friday conversations. If you have school-aged kids and it's during the school year, give them the weekend and give them the time to process. I usually try to avoid after dinner for most of us. Hard conversations late at night typically can spiral downward and then keep us awake and then get attached to sleep patterns. So avoiding anything after dinner, probably a safe bet to find a different time of day. And we have weekend activities. So thinking about, is there going to be a slumber party? Are we hosting? Is our child going somewhere on a slumber party? Do we have company coming over Saturday night? What is our Sunday morning soccer schedule? And then finding the sweet spot within that weekend where, again, the child has time to process. They have time to maybe be alone for a while, to come back with other questions without them knowing, oh, I'm headed over to, my friend's house and it looks like I've, been crying for an hour, which might be the case. So creating space around the conversation is something I highly recommend. And finally, I want you to also think about the timing if you have more than one child. You may have a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old. They probably are deserving of a different kind of conversation, each of them. They're not necessarily going to have the same questions and concerns. So if you have a family where you've got bigs and littles, youngs and olds, you might consider how you will tell them separately and or together, some sort of hybrid. So for instance, one of the clients that I worked with, we coached them to have a conversation with their two littles and the two olders separate. Now, they did the olders first. That seemed more appropriate because they were going to ask the olders, I don't even think that's a word, their older children, to hold that information, but for as short a time as possible. So maybe an afternoon, possibly overnight, but beyond that, I don't recommend it. It's been hard enough, as an adult to hold this unspoken truth about the divorce. So to ask your child of any age to hold that information quietly can be really asking a lot, can be really challenging for them. So it might be Saturday morning. We know that the young kids are going to go on a play date to the neighbor's house. We'll have time after pancakes with our older child, and we're going to sit down and we're going to give them the respect, and we're going to tell them this is what we're doing and that we wanted to create time just for them because they may have questions that the younger brothers and sisters don't have. And again, create space, 1-2 hours, maybe 3, half a day, so that that child can process and come to terms in that moment. Again, these are not one and done conversations. And then say, we're going to invite your younger brothers and sisters to sit with you this afternoon. And we're going to tell them, and we'd like you to be there with them so that we all get the same story at the same time. However, I recently had a family I was coaching, and they said, we definitely cannot do our older and younger at the same time. It will turn into something that we didn't intend. And in part because their older child has big emotions, and they were afraid that the younger child would get caught up in those emotions. So they thought it would be best to actually have an individual conversation with both kids before they sat down as a family. So I will always remind you, you're the expert when it comes to your kids. You're the one who knows what's going to be best for them. All I'm encouraging you to do is to find the place as a co-parenting team where you will ask yourself these questions. What's the right time of year? What's the right time within that month? What's the right day in that week? And what's the right time of day? The story of when a parent sits a child down to tell them that their family will forever be changed becomes an indelible mark, a fingerprint on the blueprint of their childhood, a story that will be recalled time and time again, and perhaps even told time and time again, possibly in their own adult therapy. So, to the best of our ability, parents, be conscientious, be intentional about not just what you say to your children about your divorce process, but also when you choose to have that conversation. I'm Karen McNenny, your Good Divorce Coach, host of the Good Divorce Show, and here helping you find your way to a less destructive, more compassionate divorce process. And remember, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Thanks for listening. Do you have questions or thoughts about this week's episode? Let us know by following the Good Divorce Coach on Facebook and Instagram at Good Divorce Coach, and leave a comment. And be sure to tune in every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific or listen anytime wherever you get your podcasts.